Do you use the length that you've cut at the bottom for your guide, the first guide?
You can do, or if you decide you want to, because so can you see I'm lifting and letting that drop, because I want to maintain that weight.
Yeah.
So if I didn't, if I wanted to cut to that, I'd have to bring it down more, like that, and then I would use that as my guide. But because I don't want that to, I don't want to lose any of that weight. I'm just elevating it up a bit. So that'll just have a little bit more weight under there. But if you were wanting to have a higher, more, if you don't want your weight to come here, you want your weight up here more, then yes, I would come in more like that. And I mean, that line would be, my guideline from the length would be higher anyway, and I would be using that to come up more. That makes sense. Because if I went in steeper angle there now, that would be really heavy, and that would be wispy. Because it's not, I've not maintained the bulk of both thing. So what you'd have to do then is then shorten it to that level
afterwards.
Yeah.
So that you're going to keep the shape in it.
And take the weight out of the top section so that it's not like
heavy.
Yeah.
So that's down to personalising afterwards to take that weight out. But at the moment, because I want to keep the length and I want to keep the weight within the length, I'm elevating it up more. Yeah. So starting off with that centre section, I got my degree of elevation and my degree of angle there. Now what we did from there is, if you want it to be a really steep graduation, you're going to bring each section now right back to the centre and right back onto your guide. Okay. If you want a softer arch, then you'll just bring it to the section before it. So I brought everything back to the centre. Now can anybody remember, as I was doing this, I pivoted slightly. So I was ending up like Paul's taught you.
Yeah.
Because Paul did that, didn't he? So each section would then end up more like straight, but out. So you start off on your vertical section, but each time you bring a section down, you twist it so it ends up horizontal. Is everyone okay with that? If you prefer just to take each section straight back to the middle and keep it vertical, you can do like that. But I like to bring it out and elevate it that way and end up horizontal. It's up to you how you find best to do.
Yeah, so it's the same effect, it's just a different sectioning pattern because Yeah, so there, I would do the same on this side. Elevate it. This, I'm wondering if there we go. Up and back. And then each time, in the next section, I brought up and slightly twisted it back to a horizontal. And then this one went full into horizontal. I can't get any grip on it because I'm not in front of it. Okay, so is it similar to what Paul did then, but he did it this way?
Just starts off different.
Yeah, is that all?
Yeah.
Yeah, so because your line would be straight, wouldn't it? Now, if you pulled all that way, if you pull the whole section from your guide there, it'd be a straight line, won't it?
Yes,
so you would cut that line in first and then put the graduation from your top guide rather than. Does that make sense?
No, say that again.
So you'd take a section all the way across, but you'd stay stood in the middle. So you over direct the outsides to the middle.
Yeah.
And then you would work in your orange segments with a guide at the top rather than
in the middle.
So you'd have a stable guide at the top rather than a travelling or over directing guide.
That is your guide there into then that you put in. Yeah. And then from there you just work your way up in inch size sections, or depending on the density of the hair. Obviously if it's dense, so you take smaller sections so you could see a guide, and you just follow that all the way through to your crown. Now what did we say we to watch about that crown area?
Jumping up.
It jumps up, yeah, it'll spring up. So if you've got a double crown or you've got a very bouncy crown, what could we do?
Section out the top.
Yeah, don't cut the top bit, hold on, section it out and dry the hair and then cut it when it's dry. So you can see where it bounces to. And then a lot of the personalising, there's a lot of
removing any of the weight is going to be when the hair's dry, okay? So I'm just checking over my cut while I'm doing it. And you will do exactly the same. I think we decided that these blocks don't have a lot of movement in them. There's not really a true crown there, is there? So we decided to cut it to the crown, keeping it nice and wet as you do it. And then we dried them, and then some of us got to the point where we were able to personalise them, and some just blow dried it ready for this week, didn't you? Ready to do the sides. So those who haven't got to this stage, this is what you need to do. And I'm quite happy for you to do it whichever way you want, this way or Paul's way, or whatever way you found suits you. And then once you've done that back bit, we'll go on to the sides. So this is where everybody's up to now, where we're going on to the sides, okay. What did Paul say about partings? Centre parting, side parting?
Yeah, I asked him that and he said, oh, any.
You said any?
Yeah.
I think this one suits the side parting better, doesn't it?
Yeah, and obviously our dolls had fringes as well, so.
Yeah, oh yeah, so it didn't matter.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, I think when you've no fringes, I think we've said this, it leans better towards the side parting. Because obviously it stays out of the hair. When it's in the middle, it ends up like curtains.
Like a McDonald's.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that. Yeah, a bit like that. So yeah, now what I do is when I come to this bit, I just part it roughly at the centre, just so I can see that my line is following shape really. I just come a little bit higher, but on the angle, I want this, the angle here is to mirror the angle that I'm going to do on my perimeter. So I know where I'm going. Now, because it's graduated, you are going to bring this back like a graduation. So instead of straight, because if you just went straight down, now that's fab, but you'd end up with graduation here and very heavy there. So you've got to blend from this graduation slowly down to more one length at the front. So if you start off on an angle like so, I always like to have a good couple of inches there. You're okay with this because you're combing backwards. So we're going to go from here and you're going to split this in diagonals towards the front. So can you see in a diagonal like that until you get to the front area? And then you're going to take that back to the horizontal. So you're on a horizontal section, but your angle is angled towards the floor. And because I'm elevating it out, I'm going to get that soft degree of graduation on that corner. And then stand in front of it, elevate it a little bit more. Let me just get hold of that.
So you wouldn't cut your length first?
No, well this is cutting the length if you look.
As you go?
Yeah, as you go. So it's you don't have to do the job twice really, because you're doing it as you're doing it with your graduation. Okay, and then you're going to just slightly put the head over to the other side. Take your next diagonal section and bring to behind the ear, can you see? So I've got my guideline underneath and I'm coming down towards the floor. So I am, because I've got over direction as well, I'm going to get my length towards the front with that also as my angle that I'm holding my fingers on.
Will you do the same thing as what you did at the back where you slightly twist it to be more
No, well it's
flat, is what I say about
yeah,
it.
it is flat as such as on a horizontal section as opposed to vertical. So it is flat coming down like this, but I haven't got it straight because I need the degree angle coming to the floor. So I am horizontal in the section, flat,
Yeah.
call it, but my angle of my fingers are coming.
Stays the same, you won't put, yeah, okay.
So you're still following that line?
That's more for the more severe graduation at the back then.
Yes. So with that now you can see, you can always go over, remember, and personalise afterwards. So it's better leaving the length and then going round and personalising afterwards. So it's naturally just give it that shape rather than having to bring it down, cut it and then bring it back. You're doing everything in one go really. I'm just going to check that by bringing it back again.
If you wanted to put this concave shape but without the graduation,
Yeah.
no, sorry, could you put a square bob with graduation at the back? You couldn't, could you? Or could you?
You could. Yeah.
How would you do that then, with it blending at the front?
So with that, you do your graduation in your bob to there, and then with the front, you'd have to do that straight, not put any graduation in the front. You'd have to just do this, but bring it straight down.
That's kind of what we did last week because we'd
Is
already
it?
cut a square bob first.
Right.
So then
So-
when you'd obviously done the back,
So
it
then
was
you would just do that, and bring it straight down.
See, that's what I got confused about because I messed up my bob. My bob was a bit boxed last week when I started, so we had to do
Right.
the cut we're doing today. So I don't know how to do that graduation with square bob.
Right. So that would be what he's taught you to do where you're elevating it out, but then when you get to this point, you have to bring it straight down. But you will have then graduation there and one length there, so you have to connect.
You have
it.
like a gap. Everyone had like a gap,
Yeah.
you know, underneath the ear.
So what did he do
Yeah,
then?
Like whole-
I had that. Yeah.
But
They
they-
said everyone gets that with this cut because, especially on the dolls,
Because they said behind the ear, the
behind
dolls
the
don't
ear,
have any
there's no
hair.
Is there?
No, there isn't.
But was it probably because it was square cut into that? Yeah.
It's because it was more square cut.
I've brought my doll
Oh,
from
we
last
We
week.
did
I'll show you
graduate
it.
yeah.
it. We did graduate the sides, but
A
the
little or not a lot.
Like the tiniest bit.
yeah,
Probably
just-
what you will need to do when it is dry is then just go in and personalise the difference between there and there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I felt like
Yeah.
I wanted to do.
We said that, didn't we?
Yeah,
And that would probably work
to balance
better,
it
'cause
out.
what you would have is two different cuts. You'd have a graduated square bob, but a one length one on the sides. So
Yeah.
you do need to connect it somehow.
Yeah.
Because it won't look right. It should look like she just have a layer up here
A
and
gap.
that one length.
I
Yeah.
had a panic attack this week nearly in work because this girl, well, she's hard anyway because she's already in a wheelchair, so it's a bit more difficult to cut anyway. And she's literally had a pixie cut, then she's grown it into like a wolf cut, a bit like Claudia's. Maybe it's grown a bit longer, and then she came in with like this square boxy bob that she wanted, but there was literally no thickness to the sides to. So
our ones above now, there was just nothing.
yeah,
of
so
the
I
layers
had to
being-
literally do like a graduated, not even like slightly graduated at the back, but like it was literally touching hairline at the top, and then I had to thin and personalise the back loads to balance it to the layers that were so short
Yeah.
on the side. But
And there's nothing else you could have done other than personalise it.
She
Because if
literally-
you connected
Keep
it, she'd have been really thin.
she literally showed me the picture, and I was like, I don't think I can do this.
No, and that's the right thing to actually
So I
say.
had
think
to
you need
ask someone else because I was like, I don't think this is possible, like what you're
She needs
asking
to grow
for.
it.
And it wasn't possible, but I didn't know whether cutting all the back off to try and get it as close to one length as possible would be the right option to grow it out with, or whether to just advise us to just soften the back and stuff.
You did
But
well.
we ended up going for like like a really layered back graduation, and then like I didn't really do much on the sides. I just cut the length.
Because
like,
what you need
tidied
to
it
do
up.
is, which I'm sure you told her, was like you said, grow it into the shape and even out the layers within it so that it'll all grow at the same. So that you left and you took the back to what the front sides were. Is that what you did
Yeah.
really?
It was just hard because the length was like just above like jawline, and the hairline was quite low at the back, so it was
That-
like battling with which one is
You-
better to cut close to the hairline, or because it would have ended up like a convex bob otherwise.
And did it work out in the end?
Yeah, I mean it's she's on a journey and it's
Yes.
not gonna look amazing, but
Well, that's what you've got to tell people, and they've got to and make them understand that.
she didn't
yeah, you
really
want
want to
that,
go
but
that
you can't
short
actually
at the
do
back, but it's either that or she couldn't have had the haircut the way she wanted.
So it's like preparing it to grow into the shape that she wants. Right, okay, so can you all see that side now?
Mhm.
And that's through bringing it back and elevating it slightly, but just bring it down so it's softer.
It's easier to see that from the side though, because you
Yeah.
can see the shape that you've took the sides back to, isn't it?
So so I'm going to start on here now because this is a longer way that it's to come. So I'm just hiring this section up to the temples really. Starting at the temples and then I'll do that as the top section afterwards. Again, if you feel as though it's going to jump, these dolls really jump here, so be careful. You might want to leave that whole fringe section out, dry it, and then personalise it and cut it that fringe section afterwards because this will really jump. And it can distort that line on your sides then. So same thing, you're going to go on a diagonal to the back. Now remember that because it is for a side parting, this side will appear longer, and that's just because it's got further to travel. So don't worry about that, because that's, you know, that's the nature of the style. Okay, so I'm taking my diagonal, I'll show you all in a minute. So I've put my diagonal section there, down to the sides.
And what
Okay,
tension would you use cutting the sides then?
definitely softer tension. Not
Quite
tighter.
loose, not tight.
Yeah,
Cut it
because it's
tight.
going to really jump around these ears. Okay, so yeah, a lot softer tension, not full tension. And then you follow your elevate up to behind the ear and follow your guideline. Now, at this point, you'll find it hard to check the balance because this is coming from lower than where that is. So once you've got this whole section done and it's as high as that, then you can check your balance. Okay. And with a bob, how would we check your cut? How would you cross cut it? What we're going to use to make sure it's even at an even cut.
Mirror.
Mirror. Yep. And feel. You know, like you having a feel and see. So this feels a lot longer at the moment because this is coming from a shorter distance. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this down to the hairline. Can you see on this side? Are you alright, Faisy? Can you see there? And I'm going to bring this back to there, elevating it up only very slightly. And then definitely here, those heads are really impacted on the front. They get really thick all of a sudden towards that front section. So that's where it's going to jump. So a lot less tension on that front bit, if you can. And then still following that shape. Allowing for that jump on the front once it's dry. And then I'm going to do all this top section in diagonals now. So if I put that down, I'm going to work through the top in diagonals to the front hairline. Everybody know what I mean by that? I'm not going horizontal and I'm not going straight vertical, I'm going on a diagonal vertical because it's following the shape of the head. Alright, that's curved. So up and over, comb it down, let's see where the line of the hair is. So we can see that this is going to swing down to there, so that's where I need to be cutting it from and to. So we're just going to get the section, just splitting it in two, at diagonal, just finding its natural fall, and then cutting it to there.
Would you always club cut as well?
Not always, no. What do you think would affect the way what technique I chose, cutting technique?
The density.
The density.
And whether it's straight or curly.
Yeah. So if it's got a wave or curly, I'd probably go point cutting, to be honest, as well as if it was dead straight. I'd probably do some. I'd probably do, to be honest, even if it was dead straight, I would probably do club cutting and then go over and soften it off with the point cutting. Bobs are really nice, are really lovely cuts with a razor. If you can get your angles and with straighter hair with a razor, they're fabulous because they don't show any lines. But you really have to be proficient in razor cutting to do it, and you have to have a nice sharp razor because it's really hard. Has anybody done a full cut with a razor?
No.
It's really hard. It's really hard to follow a guide because there is no definite line.
Because it's uneven.
Because it's uneven. So you've got to know your angles that you're working to as well. Right, so this is falling down here, and I'm just going to go behind the ear there. And I'm more horizontal again now, can you see? But just elevating out with my fingers. Let's just split that in two so I know what I'm working with. Again, that is really kind of thick at that front, so a lot less tension. And then I'm going to bring this down to here. A lot less tension. And around here maybe point cutting, where you know it's going to jump a lot, and you need to soften it off. So just you assess how you're feeling your doll's hair is, your client's hair. Is it getting bulkier? Is it getting finer? If it was getting finer, you wouldn't point cut, you'd have to club cut.
Why?
Because what does finer hair need to be made to look like?
Fuller.
Fuller and thicker. So if you point cut the edges, you're making it softer, you're making it thinner. So club cutting makes it thicker. Or here, thicker. Okay, but because this is really chunky, I am softening it off with point cutting there. And I'm not going, I am actually over directing it a little bit more than I need to allow for what? For it to jump. And then I can always cut it when it's dry. Okay, so we should have a nice shape in there with soft graduation. Now, if you have any, can you see I've got a few little wisps here? I'm just going to dry that and then shake it and see where they fall from the crown. Let it swing a bit, and then I'll cut that visually. Once I've seen and dried it, I'll probably just slice them out.
Is that because you've put it in those sections but it's wanting to fall a different way?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So I've cut it longer. Now that I've done that, it's wanting to come back a bit. But I want to just see how it falls once it's dry, and get the client to shake the head. See where it falls when it's natural, and then you'll just cut it when it's dry. Okay, it's not sure. So let me have a look at her. How's she doing? So this doll's head, if you bring it forwards and check it from here, it'll always look longer there because it's coming forward at the same pace there. But when it's warm, it's going to be over here. So it's a visual. When it's dry, have a look where it visually sits. Okay? And cut it visually. So on this side now, I've got a nice shape to it. Can you see they just want to come forward that?
Yeah.
There, which is terrible, but because it wants to do that, and I've over directed it a little bit more, it should be even when it's dry, but I've allowed for it, and you're just going to see. So can you see that shape coming down? Right, so some of you have got to do the back, some of you have just got to do your sides, and then personalising. And personalising will be where this weight line is, you need to soften that weight line. And there's various ways of doing that. You can literally lift your scissors up, have a look where your weight line is, and really deep slice into it. Or you can visually just do it, little slices going round. And if you're a little bit frightened of that, sometimes the thinning scissors work really well. If you just lift your thinning scissors up, have a look and think, right, I need to do that there. I need to just soften that edge off. Can do. Don't worry about these little bits, just dry them just cut them when it's dry. Okay? You all gonna have a go?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to put your chairs in the middle for me, please?